Hey guys, my name is Ricky. I'm a flight instructor, commercial pilot, entrepreneur, and your host of the Positive Rate Aviation podcast. Welcome to season 2. This season, we're going to continue our climb into the art of leadership, growth, and success through the lens of aviation. We're going beyond the basics. We're going to be exploring new horizons in personal development, mindset, and the strategies that help performers stay above the turbulence. From cockpit wisdom to real-world leadership lessons, each episode is designed to help you level up, lead with purpose, and keep your life and career in a positive rate of climb. So buckle up. It's time to set your heading, add some power, continue your ascent towards your full potential. Welcome back. We are here for episode 3 of season 2. And it would be an understatement to say that this is a special one. Very much been looking forward to this one for quite some time. Today I'm joined by my guest. Some of you may recognize him, Nick Smith from Part-Time Pilot. Man, Nick, how are you, man?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, and you definitely overstated me for sure. But thanks. I'm excited to chat.
Awesome. Yeah, man, this is going to be a good one. A lot of experience, a lot of wisdom that I'm sure you're going to impart on us today. So yeah, looking forward to the conversation, man. But yeah, with that being said, if you wouldn't mind, just for maybe those out there who are watching or listening to this that have not seen you or not familiar with your platform, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Nick Smith, founder, creator of parttimepilot.com. Essentially, we do mentorship and online ground school training for private pilot, sport pilot, and IFR with, commercial pilot soon to be coming. And it just started off as I got my private pilot license. So a little bit about my background is it's all in aerospace. So I did aerospace engineering at University of Washington, then aerospace engineering master's at Georgia Tech, and then went rotation program at Boeing. And then after that did flight test engineering down in San Diego. And during that time, I wanted to get my private pilot's license. And so I had all the knowledge, right? I had all the background knowledge, especially compared to other people who were becoming a pilot, and had none of that language or any, familiarity in there. And then not to I said this once and people thought I was bragging. I was like, no, I'm actually saying the opposite. But when I started flying, it actually came easy to me. And I think a lot of people see that it's actually it's not that hard to control it. It's all the other things, the mental load and all that stuff that comes with flying. And the flight training industry and just me not having a good grasp of it and pretty much doing every single thing wrong just really ate me up. And I almost quit 100 times. And I ended up spending, and this was 10 years ago, so it's probably even more, but I ended up spending close to $25,000 for my private pilot. And I just thought, if someone like me with all my background and who, when I got in the cockpit, I felt natural at the beginning, can make all these mistakes and cost me so much money and time and stress, that I bet there's a lot of other people that are out there as well. So the first thing I did was just make a free course on social media, basically about all my mistakes. And a lot of people like that. And that's kind of where it went from there.
Yeah, so it kind of reaffirms when, the old saying of sometimes experience is the best teacher. Because you mentioned that, basically it was your mistakes is kind of what, got you going with your school.
Yeah, absolutely. And people really resonated with me sharing my mistakes. I think on social media, everyone kind of just shows their victories. And it can, when you're struggling through it and you're comparing yourself to other people on social media, you can start to feel really bad because it looks like they're just doing everything perfectly the first time. And so yeah. I think people resonate when you say that you struggle.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that, we all become guilty of that at one point or another. And I've had some colleagues of mine, that are way too kind, say things like, man, you make this look easy. And I'm like, man, I appreciate that, but nothing about this is easy. Mm-hmm. It's like anything else in life. If you want it bad enough, you just do what you have to do to make it happen. But like you said, it's a highlight reel. People rarely, post their failures. It's mostly just the wins. So uh, it's just about staying the course.
Yeah.
Um, but so okay, so that's kind of the background on how you got started with Part Time Pilot. But one thing I wanted to ask, and you kind of touched on your educational background in the aerospace field, but was there a moment or a time, maybe as a young child, where you kind of just knew that aviation was the route for you, or that's what you wanted to do? Like, do you remember like looking up in the sky, being like, "Wow," or kind of what is your why essentially?
Yeah. So I'd always been, at a young age, I was good at math. And for those listening, no, you don't have to be good at math to become a pilot. Um, but I was always into math and sciences. I had a fifth grade teacher that was like all about science and just really got me on that train. And then, I saw a space shuttle launch from Cape Canaveral. And then and so I was always just really intrigued. And then, towards high school, you start to, people are like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And like just a combination of, I want to make good money, but I also want to do something really, really cool. And so I wanted to like work for NASA and become an astronaut for the longest time. So that was kind of the goal. It was like, okay, go get my, you know, so at UW, the degree I got was actually aeronautical and astronautical engineering. And so I specialize in the astro part, which is like space, for like my senior project and stuff. And so that was kind of the goal there. And then the next step was to get my pilot's license and, get experience and maybe apply to NASA. And life happened. And, would I still go to space if the opportunity? Yeah, I would. But, life happens. But even back then, I thought, if that's what I shoot for and I come up short, then wherever that short is, will be pretty good, right? So that was kind of the goal early on. I never wanted to be. My goal was never like a commercial pilot or anything like that. But I love, airplanes and space type stuff. And yeah, that's kind of the early draw to aviation.
Hmm. So you just made me think about something. I didn't even write this down, but just listening to you talk about that. Um, so with the aspirations of going to NASA, and like you said, obviously, you aim big, and then if you fall somewhere, then you're still doing pretty good. But for those that don't know, is that private pilot license that you set out for, is that kind of a prereq for, getting into a space program, or is that just kind of to fulfill your own, personal like goals?
Yeah, so back in the day when it was only, I mean, it's different now because there's private companies that are hiring people to go to space, are having people go to space, right? So it's different.
Yeah.
But back in the day, for NASA, I mean, it was like basically fighter jet experience and really good grades, a couple degrees, um, type thing. Then when I was kind of coming up, they relaxed that a little bit and they started doing like mission specialists, right? But you would always see like having a couple degrees, having a variety of experiences, having a pilot's license, those things would help. And now they're even more like, so if you're like the captain of a flight, you definitely have to have a lot of, that's where like former uh, you know, fighter jet pilots are going to be. But like they have mission specialists on almost every trip, and sometimes they could just be like biologists, and it depends on the mission. If they're going to go do some experiments on this or that. Um, so it's kind of a wide variety of things, but I never really, I never really wanted to go into the military. Not that I have anything bad to say about the military, and I support the military 100%. But I didn't want to. I had a lot of other ideas and didn't want to give my, I didn't want my, what is it, 4 to 6 to 8 years or whatever, kind of
Yeah.
under control of them. Which, but if I really, you know, back at the time, if I wanted to be an ass, that probably would have been the best route to go the
That's right.
fighter jet
Yeah.
route. But yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's
yeah,
actually so for for pilots specifically, well, I guess I can only speak to the Air Force. I'm not sure about the other services, but if you were to go the fighter pilot route in the Air Force, it's a 10-year service commitment minimum.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because, we all, read a lot of things online and trying to find different avenues in our way into aviation. And, man, so often I'm reading people giving, whether it's solicited or unsolicited advice of, hey man, go into the military. That's the easiest way, blah, 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 blah. But to your point, it's not for everyone, man. And,
Mm-hmm.
when you're young, adult, formative adult years, that's a critical time where you could be, really finding your true purpose. Not to say that the
Right.
military is a waste of time. I'm in the military myself, but
Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought that up because, like I said, that gets talked about a lot, man. And you might actually miss your true calling. It's kind of my whole point in bringing that up.
Right. It's it's a big commitment. And I think I was just kind of scared of that a little bit because I was like, what if I change my mind? You
Yeah,
know?
no, for sure. Did
But yeah.
So I know we spoke last week on the phone. We kind of did our little icebreaker and
Yeah.
just so we kind of get to know each other a little bit more. You brought something up interesting, and the military made me think about this. So I know you mentioned that you were involved in some flight test. Was it some flight test engineering or something or another on one of the bases? Would you be able to speak to that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. It was under a security clearance, but
Yeah,
they usually tell us when basically if you can't Google it, then don't
yeah,
talk about it, right? But
right, right.
most of the stuff I did is public knowledge.
Yeah, what you can talk about, of course.
Yeah, so I actually worked for General Atomics. They make like the Predator drones and the Reaper drones, um, and did flight test engineering for them. So I would go up in various bases around the U.S., military bases around the U.S., where they had, whether it was the Navy has them, the Army even has some, the Air Force, of course, has some.
Right.
So, I got to go to one time we got to go to Hawaii for a few times, and that was awesome. And then, but most of the time it was in the desert in Southern California, um, China Lake, Edwards. There's quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, basically,
Yeah.
a lot of the testing was software because those drones are flying them. Well, they're not flying themselves, but it's
Unmanned.
a yeah, and the pilot and co-pilot are in a ground control station, controlling it off of video feeds and stuff. And so software is just, software is huge in everything nowadays. But
Right.
so every test was heavily software involved. But
Yeah.
there were some really cool things we did as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I don't want to, obviously put you in a compromising situation. I just wanted you to kind of speak to that with what you could to kind of, maybe drive the point home that we were previously making as far as maybe missing your original calling if you found yourself somewhere that you really don't want to be or that you shouldn't be. You never know what type of opportunities you might have. And that was an amazing opportunity that I
Mm-hmm.
think you had. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but going back, let's go back to the ground school to part-time pilot for a second. So what was your original? I know it was to speak to in your words, your failures, right? Um, but if any, what was your original vision for the school, and how has it evolved from what your original vision was?
Yeah, so originally it just started like as an Instagram, just like helping. Like I didn't have any ideas for monetization or ground school at that time when I started social media. I just started talking about, my struggles, and then I started making some like helpful. I had all these notes from my ground school because my flight training took so long. I had to retake so many like tests and restudy so many times to like prepare for these like pre solo tests because my solo endorsements were always running out of not current anymore.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
and the flight schools that always had to have me redo these different tests. And so I had just so many notes, and it kind of gave me the idea, like, so I started kind of making like some PDFs, of like helpful diagrams and examples. And I started sharing that. And then, I made a website and made the how to become a pilot and save money course, which was basically all my mistakes. Like, don't do all these things, and this is why, because it's going to cost you money, and this is how much it cost me, type of thing. And then I really still didn't know how to monetize it. And then I looked into kind of what you need to do to have your own ground school. And once I figured that out and figured I didn't have to be a flight instructor, I could be a ground instructor, and endorse people. And then figuring out how to endorse people online and what I would need to have a course and all that, I just started building a course. And it took me like, and I think I mentioned this in our call, but it took me like a couple years to build the course, because one, I'm like a perfectionist, and two, I think I mentioned to you that, like, in retrospect, I wish I would have just like put it out earlier. And then, like, because no matter how perfect you think you can get something, people are going to tell you what's wrong with it, and they're going to find things that are wrong with it.
Yep.
So even once I put it out, I was then changing things based off feedback. So I wish I would have just put it out earlier and got feedback earlier, and then used that feedback to kind of create the rest of it. I think a lot of people just think everything needs to be perfect, and it's like you're gonna bust your ass making sure it's perfect, and then people are gonna be like, "This sucks."
They're gonna rip it up either way, man.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, but that's what I did. That's kind of the origin story of the ground school, and then it went really well. We did like a beta launch in 2020. Late 2020, so during COVID, and it went really well. I got like, let's see, fine. I got like 40 or 50 people to sign up for my very first launch, and I was stoked, man. And it was kind of the light was like, I can do this, and then I kept just kind of building it, launching it, perfecting it, and adding features, and then got to a point where I was like, I need more time to work on. Like, I have all these ideas and things that like I can do to grow this thing, but my job's getting in the way. And so, like, it came to a point where I thought, okay, it's better if I spend time on my business, and I'm making enough that I can live off of. And so I made the switch, and that was like 3 years ago, or yeah, I think 3 years now, that I went full time on Part-Time Pilot.
Yeah. Huh. And I remember we kind of, again, going back to our conversation last week, I think I asked if you were doing this as a full-time gig, hence the name Part-Time Pilot. It was kind of just funny how that came about. He's doing Part-Time Pilot full-time. But that's awesome. So what were some of the biggest challenges then with actually turning this idea into, like, no kidding, like a scalable, like, online business?
Whew, that's a good question. I mean, it's a lot of work, a lot of little things. For me, I've always been a worker, man, and like I would get home from my job, and I actually got like like, just from doing it on my laptop on the couch, I got like back problems from that, because doing it too much. But like, so that was never a problem for me. The everyday tasks and things like that, definitely a hurdle. But like, building there's so many details. Building the website, having different features, figuring out how to host a website, figuring out when your website goes down and people are like freaking out, like, what do I do about that? Especially when it was just me. Now I have people helping me, which is great.
Yeah.
But that was all like fine. Like, I would say the biggest hurdles are like the mental aspect of being an entrepreneur, but not only being an entrepreneur, but kind of being the face of a brand.
Yeah.
You really have to look inwards at yourself. Like, you know, when someone wants a refund and like not take it personal, or,
Mhm.
you know, man, YouTube, the worst comments always come on YouTube because I think people, they don't have to have like a public profile so that they can just hide behind their anonymous profile on YouTube. And, you know, just for a while that was tough, just hearing people say, you know, you suck, like
Yeah.
you have no business teaching this, blah blah blah. And like over time, you know, it's, they say that like entrepreneurial, like personal brand is like the best therapy you can give yourself. And like I
Mhm.
totally see what they mean by that, because you you have to just kind of block that stuff out and focus on all the good things people are saying, because no, like I said before, no matter what you do, there's going to be some person out there that's just angry and just
Yeah.
wants to be a butthead.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
So this is really good, man. Because again, I have two questions for you that I didn't have pre-prepared. You just made me think about this. So for the entrepreneurs out there, and this includes myself, two questions. One, I'll start with the first one. At what point did you realize, okay, I need to bring in some help? I can no longer do this on my own. Was there a
Mm.
particular like incident, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, so I've followed. So before I started my business, I had a friend who wanted to start his own business, and he needed some help with like the technical things. You know, I've always been kind of good at tech things, so like Facebook ads and Google ads, he couldn't figure out, and so he kind of wanted me to ask me to help out, and I was like, yeah, sure, because I always had that entrepreneurial bug. And he was selling like a PDF book, and I remember getting the first sale from an ad and just being like hooked on it. You know, a
Yeah.
digital product that you can, you know, because you can make endless digital products. There's no inventory issues with a digital product, so just getting that first sale was like really exciting. And then you start thinking like, okay, if we can get one sale, we can get 10 sales. If we can get 10, we can get 100, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Just it's really fun to think about. So anyways, that kind of got me hooked, but he got me on to this guy named James Wedmore. Um, so James Wedmore is like a entrepreneurial coach essentially, and he has this podcast. If there's any entrepreneurs listening out there, called Mind Your Business Podcast. And so the way he's different than most entrepreneurial coaches is he's all about the mindset of things, of, you know, being an entrepreneur and running your own business and things like that. And he gets a little woo, as you might call it, like spiritual type things, a little too much for me sometimes. But when you see through that or whatever, I mean, maybe you're into that, and that's totally fine. I'm definitely into that a little bit. You know, law of attraction, positivity, things like that. But so just be aware of that. But like some
Yeah.
of his basic tenets are just so powerful, and he basically, you know, is so big on like the reason, he always says, the reason you can't, because one of the things that you tell yourself, you know, when you don't hire somebody is you can't afford it, right? You look at, okay, well, if I'm you know, paying this person this much, then this is how much my profit's going to drop. I'm not going to have enough money to live anymore. And he always says, well, the reason you're not making more money, the reason you can't afford to pay someone is because you don't have help. Like
Mm.
they're intertwined, and if you hire the right person, it should actually double, you know, it should like double your revenue. Um so
Mm.
just the mindset tricks around that. And then, you know, he was like, did you know that you can hire like virtual assistants from around the world uh that are, you know, a lot
Mm.
cheaper than hiring someone who lives in San Diego, California?
Yeah.
And so that's where I first started. And I still have a virtual two virtual assistants from different parts of the world, and they're amazing. And they just taking on, you know, a lot of the tasks off of me, so I can focus on the task, another thing he says is like the 80-20 rule. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it, but
Yeah. So it's like, you can get 80% of your output by doing 20% of activities. So essentially for a business, it's like you can get 80%, you can make 80% of your revenue by just focusing on this 20% activities. So like you could strip away 80% of the activities that you work on and just focus on the 20% that's most important, and you'll still be making 80% of your revenue. And so like if you own a business as an entrepreneur, that's what you should be focused on. And the rest of the 80% should be like your assistants. So it's changing that mindset, and really being able to focus on those revenue generating activities, like building another course, marketing, talking, making content, being able to free up my time to do that stuff, instead of, changing the color on my webpage and, things like that.
yeah,
Things that take time and need to be done and are very important. But when you have an expertise or a unique way of looking at things that you're selling, you want to be the one that's doing that type of activities. You know what I mean?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's valuable, man. I think a lot of small business owners probably struggle with that. It's like relinquishing control,
Mm-hmm.
and not from a negative or malicious standpoint, but just this is your baby, right? You want to protect it and cultivate it, and at least I'll speak for myself.
Oh no,
Kind of,
I still struggle with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like when you get those people that you can trust, obviously you want to utilize them, and they can help take you where you want to go, but it's easier said than done, man, for sure.
Absolutely.
um the other question I had, for entrepreneurs, kind of more so in the digital space, because you mentioned getting the butthead comments and things like that. I actually had my first butthead comment, I guess you could say, on YouTube.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was, and what's funny is, I didn't even see it right away. It was like 4 days old. So I kind of initially freaked out because I was like, dang, who else has seen this? Like, it was, I'm not gonna say what this guy said, um, but man, it hurt. I'm not even gonna lie to you, man, because I try to be honest and do things in my mind what is the right way, and
Yeah.
deliver quality content and have quality guests and people on this platform, and I take this seriously, and it hurt, and I had to go against my initial reaction, me as a person, right? I wanted to respond in a way that maybe wasn't so nice, but I was like, what good is that going to do for me, really, in the long run, and of course my business. But I say all that to ask, like, what, when you first start experiencing that, like, do you respond to negative comments, or do you just move on?
Yeah. So for at the beginning, just like you, right? I was like, oh my God, if someone else sees this, they're going to think that, they're going to know I'm a fraud, blah, 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 like all these things. And like,
Yeah,
so I would respond and argue and use a lot of energy on it. And then I realized, it's not worth my time, because it
yeah,
started happening a little bit more and more. And then you just kind of take a look back and you're like, okay, for example, well, hold on. First, I'll say, so then I kind of got over it, and for a while I didn't comment, and then I'm kind of back now to where I will comment, but it doesn't affect me, because when when people are commenting on your videos and things, and you're responding to them and engaging them, it's good for like they'll get shown more, the engagement, right?
true,
So I was like, it'd be nice if I could engage with them, but not get so like it doesn't take any energy, or it doesn't take
right.
any of my power away. And I think I'm not 100% perfect. Sometimes I still get, it
Yeah,
still
you're human.
affects me, but I'm in a lot better place about it. Like, for example, I've been doing this series where on TikTok and Instagram, like a question a day from each private pilot subject. And my goal of it was to be like, hey, I'm going to read the question, show you the question, and then you guys answer in the comments. And then I'm not going to tell you the answer until like later. Right. So I would like post it in my story later at night. I turned that now where I just like I reply to all the comments later that night or the next morning saying whether you're correct or not. Because I don't want to just say the answer like right there. At least that was my idea, right? And this guy on TikTok would not leave me alone and like was just like saying like this guy's the worst and his ground school sucks and his app sucks. He won't even tell you the answer. Like all because I wouldn't say the answers like later. And like and so like where before I would be like I would even change what I'm doing based off one of these comments. You know, I'd be like, oh my God, he's right. I need to do all this other work to appease this one person. But now it's just like, you know, I just be like, dude, like I told him like 3 different times, like I'm giving people a chance. You know, I kind of kill them with kindness a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still get snarky, but that's kind of the overall goal. Just be like, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to help people. If you don't like it, then
Don't
sorry.
watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's funny you brought up the engagement and how it'll get shown more. And that did cross my mind because I typed it out. I typed out my response and it was simple. I literally just said, thanks for watching. I appreciate the views. But I didn't want to, people to read that. And this is just a moment of transparency. That was just me in the moment. I'm human, right? Like everyone else. And, but I was like, that might come off the wrong way. Like literally the name is Positive Rate Aviation, right? So I'm like,
yeah,
I don't want to be engaging in, negative, like you said, energy. Right.
yeah,
And I've said this on several other of my episodes, but, anyone who knows me, it knows kind of like how I feel in relation with my relationship to time and energy, but specifically with time. Like I don't like wasting time like with anything, right? And engaging with this guy back and forth, I feel would have been a waste of my time. So ultimately, I just decided not to even engage.
yeah.
Um,
Sorry, we have a
but
visit. We have a visitor, my cat.
oh no, it's all good.
But
Nah,
yeah,
you're
it
good.
depends on the comment, and I think that's a great way to do it. Is just to not engage with those
Yeah,
people. If you can
yeah,
do that, just like
for sure.
yeah. So it's good on
Um,
you.
yeah. Also too, man. Just want to say thank you again for the kind of. We talked about this before we started recording, but yeah, Nick is actually in the approach path of a runway for international airport. So
Yeah.
if you guys are hearing all the airplanes in the background, that's kind of where you're getting at. But we actually love that. So I just want to throw that in there. Um.
Yeah, they get loud.
So let's see here, man. So what do you think ultimately made what you do kind of stand out above because there's lots of online ground schools out there, right? And
Mhm.
and a lot of us probably are familiar with the legacy online ground schools, but how did you kind of find your way? Like, what do you think made you stand out to be able to get to where you are now?
Yeah. And I learned this from that James Wedmore guy too. I kind of had this in my mind going into my business, and kind of has to do with my name, Part Time Pilot. Um, you want to kind of niche, especially when you're getting started. They say niche down. So if you want to help people with like skincare, for example, or something, and you want to get into that world, there's a ton of competition for skincare. But if you say like, I'm helping like newborns that have rashes with this skin, or like something really specific,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can you can it's the marketing is so much easier because you can speak to those people. When you speak, these people who have these problems are like, oh my God, this is for me. Like you've probably had ads on Instagram where like, are they watching my every move? Like, how do they know this about me?
yeah,
And that's just super niche stuff, right? And so I wanted to kind of start with that, um, and that is one of the core tenets of that, because I kind of looked at my flight training world journey, And I had to work full time to have enough to then have money to then use for flight training, right?
Right.
So I was like flying on a paycheck to paycheck basis. And so that means, I was working 40 to 50-hour weeks and then doing flight training on top of it. And that's a lot. So part-time pilot is built around that idea of catering to the modern day student pilot that has to do that because the cost of living is so expensive.
Yeah.
Flight training is so expensive. And so we all start out as a part-time pilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then even if you want to be a full-time pilot, we all start out as that part-time pilot. And it's very rare that, there are people out there who have they have the money, they can stop working, or maybe they're young and their parents are helping them out and they can just completely focus on flight training. And by the way, if that's you, like, part-time pilot doesn't exclude, but like we built everything in mind of like helping people save time and money. So that's why we had that first course, how to become a pilot and save money, that was mostly started with just don't do all my mistakes, and then has grown to just a lot more tips, lots of scholarship links. We post a bunch of scholarships. We do our own scholarship. We also, like, I know, like, well, how can you say you're this always, for me, right? This was tough for me because I'm like, how can my thing be like, I'm going to save people time and money, but then I charge them for, ground school. Well, it's a psychological thing, but we did start off with like super cheap ground school, right? And then there's actually a thing where, like, in there's like, it's like marketing psychology, that like people can have perceived value on products just based off price. So like if you see 3 products and you see one is $300, one's $200, and one's $100, you're instantly automatically going to think that the most high quality one is the $300 one.
Right.
And so I tried to tell people this, and people are like, yeah, you're just trying to make more money. But I'm like, no, I really had to get close to my competitors with my price so that people would perceive my value as at least equal to them. And so we started off around, like, I think it was $150. And originally I wanted to keep it that way, but then, my sales kind of capped, and I was looking at different things and reading a bunch about it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then, so, there's a lot, again, we go back to that therapy journey of having your own brand as an entrepreneur, and all the things that go through your mind about raising your prices, and how, just all the things like, is it worth that much? Oh, are people still going to buy? Oh, people are going to be mad at me, all these things. Well, when I moved it from $150 to $250, more people bought, because, again, that perceived value thing. I knew that our features and our content were as good or better as my competitors. People just weren't taking us seriously at that price. So I kind of forget the question you asked originally. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good. I'm just like, what do you think made
Oh,
you
yeah.
stand out?
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So, but we still are at the low end of the kind of range, right? There's, I think Kings is 300. There's some other ones that are like 350.
Sporties.
Yeah. Sporty is like 280 or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're still on the low end of that. And I want to say that basically my goal is to be like, have the features and the price that make selling easy, right? So when people are like, oh, that's on the low end, but it has the most features, boom, that's an easy sell for me. So, okay. So one, just be, try to save money on the price as much as I can with still having a profitable business, right? The other thing is the scholarships we give. We give out four $1,000 scholarships per year, and then I'm always trying to partner with other people and companies in aviation to kind of add to that, do giveaways and things like that. We have a scholarship coming up, summer scholarship for our members, and Core Aviation, Core Headsets. They make headsets. They're donating $500 to that. So I'm always trying to do things like that to give our members and save them money. And then our course and kind of doing it right and being that mentor is actually the thing that saves people the most money, but it's just not as sexy as the other things, right? But when we can get in people's ears early enough and tell them to make a plan and do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, look out for this, look out for this. Like I said, it avoids them doing what I did and spending like $10,000 extra that they didn't need to spend. So that's key to us, is getting to people early and kind of giving them that mentorship role, which is huge in saving money. And then I would say the other thing that a couple other things that stand out. One, we're the only one that has like built for audio lessons. There's a couple other ground schools that have audio lessons, but it's just transcripts of their video lessons. And that's different, right? Because if you're talking over a video, you're expecting people to be able to see that video. So you're going to say things like, and you see this here, right? And if that's audio, people can't see it. So when I made the audio lessons, I knew going in that this is going to be only audio. So instead of saying, look here, I say like, I describe, the image or whatever. And that's been super popular for our students. So that's one thing that kind of stands out. One thing that's kind of new is our interactive AI tools. So we have like a voice-to-voice AI ATC simulator, and then a check ride simulator. So students can get in there, and we're testing it out right now. When students use it, it costs us about $20 to $40 a day. But right now, I think it's the cost is okay for us. But that's another benefit, right? You basically have all the AI tools that you could want for helping you study, but you don't have to pay for a subscription to those things. It's in your lifetime access to our ground school. And then I'm trying to think of, and then just the customer support. So I hate companies that are, sorry, this is kind of long-winded, but I hate companies that especially online digital companies, right? Where you feel like when you bought, you immediately feel like, oh gosh, they just tricked me to buy. I know I'm not going to be able to talk to a single person to get this refund or to ask a question, and so I don't want people to feel like that at all. So we have the best refund policy. Like if you get in, as long as you don't do the majority of the stuff, we'll give you a refund. Like come in, you don't like it, it's not your thing. I don't want people who don't want to be in our course. I don't want to feel like I stole your money, right? Like how much do you love companies that just like don't hassle you about refunds? Like I can think of like Costco. Like Costco's really good at that. And I love Costco because of that. Like I'm always going to go back to Costco because I know if I buy something from there that doesn't meet the standards, like I have the opportunity to get my money back. I think that's huge. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is just always being available for questions. So like I told you earlier, I'm kind of a workaholic. So I'm on emails and messages 7 days a week. And then we have CFI on contract that helps out with those when I can't. We have our study group. And then we have like a trained AI chat on every lesson. So no matter what time of day, what time of week, you can get like a, educated answer of any question that you have. So yeah,
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I didn't even realize that y'all had those AI integrated tools that you mentioned. So that's
yeah, dude, AI is crazy. Yeah. It's I've had some sleepless nights about AI. I still do. No one can really predict what's going to happen, but I think for education purposes, it's a super valuable tool, and I want to be I don't want it to overtake the human things. Like, I don't want to just like be like, oh yeah, here, just let the AI talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to help you.
Yeah.
That's not the thing. I just want to add the AI tools as an additional tool, um, and not take away the human element. The human
Yeah.
element's always going to stay. And with AI, that's going to get even more valuable, being able to talk to an actual human. So, they call it like AI slop. So I don't want to do any AI slop like that, but I do
Right.
want to utilize the power of the tools in aiding in education.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah.
funny because I didn't even, before we mentioned that just now, I didn't even think about the potential challenges. I mean, there's obviously a lot of potential positives, right, with using it, but I wasn't thinking about the challenges that affects your industry or your thing, specifically.
Yeah, I had someone the other day, they said, they were like, your ground school should be like $20 because I can just do this on ChatGPT. And
Wow.
I was like, go ahead.
Yeah.
uh, we have aviation tailored, private pilot specifically tailored AI tools in our lifetime access that you don't have to pay a subscription for. Plus, we have all the structure. Plus, we have the human support. If you want to do ChatGPT, yeah, it's a great tool. Go for it. But you know, you're always going to wonder if you can trust it, if it's making things up. You're not going to have the structure. You're not going to have all the practice tests. You're not going to have the human element, the audio lessons, the videos, all
Right.
that stuff. So go for it. If
Yeah.
that's fine. But it's definitely changing things a lot. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Um, so you kind of spoke earlier on your first time were able to kind of recoup, or when you began monetizing, right? You kind of received that first payment. But aside from that, was there a moment where you kind of were like, wow, like, this is really taking off? Like, can you kind
Mhm.
of describe that moment?
Yeah, there was man, I was really lucky. I do think I have a very logical brain, and I really thought things through. And like I said, I built everything. I was making some money before I quit my job. I was very strategic about that. But for the first like 6 to 8 months of my business, it was like it was just kind of a linear increase in revenue. Um, and I know I've heard the horror stories of entrepreneurs where it's very, hit
Yeah.
or miss and crazy like that. Um, and I have since had that moment with the inception of AI because Google search, right?
Yeah.
Um, I was doing very well off of organic Google search because some of my videos were at the top when people would search on like ground school. They'd see my videos and they would get to know who Part Time Pilot is. And once people get to know who Part Time Pilot is, like there's no problem with getting the sale. Like they can see the features, they can see the student reviews. Uh, the problem is that the people just think of kings and sporties, right? So without that, so when Google switched to AI, that went away, and I lost like 50% of my traffic
Wow.
because Google's AI didn't know who Part Time Pilot was. They just said all the ChatGPT and Google AI. They just basically the most mentioned online of a product is what they're going to share. So
Mm,
Kings and Sporties, they're mentioned obviously the most. They've been around the most of the biggest brands. So that's, but I've learned it. Things are good now, uh, but to go back to your question of when there was just a moment, and I don't know really how to explain it, but I was just like, I remember turning to my wife and just kind of, because I get notifications of when we get a new student, and there was just one day where there was just like 20 new students, and I don't know why that happens. Um, but I
mm,
was just like, it was like my best, our business's best day ever. And I wasn't doing like a launch or promoting anything. It was just organic. Who knows? Someone maybe on Reddit was like, hey, you guys should take part time. Who knows what happened somewhere? out there was recommending me, and that caused a little, but I remember that moment just being like, whoa, this is cool. Like people are finding me without me doing any work right now. That's awesome. And that's not that I've made it or anything, but like that's when I was like, this is sustainable.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I think I told you when we spoke last week that I've actually been on your email list for the past few years since I began like my whole like flying journey. So it's kind of cool to see this kind of come full circle now.
And you still haven't unsubscribed?
No, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. So, but all jokes
Appreciate
aside,
that.
man, as as an instructor now, man, I guess I need to do a better job of plugging part-time pilot to my students.
Hey man, we have I mean, I would love that. That's the biggest thing, word of mouth is,
Yeah.
I can't tell you, literally every single day someone asks me a question about something they hear on our free podcast, our free videos or something, and they reach out and they say, hey, my instructor or flight school told me to do Kings or Sporties, and they didn't talk about this, or like, I'm using your video to learn this, I'm using your podcast to learn this. And I'm like, that's great, but I'm like, oh, I need to get people, like, once people hear about us, like I said, it's good, but I just need to. So yeah, word of mouth from flight instructors is so powerful because students obviously are going to trust their flight instructor. So that's kind of the next frontier for us, is focusing on getting flight instructors to know who we are and getting on their good graces. But so one of the things I've been working on a lot is we have now flight instructor access. So free flight instructor access, they get access and they get their own training groups. Every student that they have that joins our ground school, they can then monitor their progress, see their grades, review quizzes with them, quiz results with them. And then we're also going to build like, some lesson plans, homework, worksheets, things like that, and just kind of have like a flight instructor, dashboard with tools and stuff for flight instructors.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that set up. That is amazing, man.
Yeah, we'll get you set up for sure.
Yeah. So speaking, while we're on the kind of talking about students, man, have you had a student success story that kind of, really stuck with you or touched you in a way that it kind of validated like why you started this whole part-time pilot thing to begin with?
You ask a lot of good questions, by the way. You're good at this.
Oh man, I appreciate it.
Good job. There's so many. There's nothing better than when I get for all the, we talked about the butt heads. For all the butt heads, there's equally, if not, twice as many more good stories, and that's what you got to focus on, right? The people that tell you, how you've impacted them, and that's what I live for. There was one. He was a teacher, and he knew absolutely nothing about aviation. Like, first lesson, he was actually sorry, my cats are like fighting. he was like the one that made me create a mnemonics and acronym guide for our ground school, because like just the simplest acronyms, like not FAA, but like just the simplest acronyms and words, like day one he was reaching out and asking us about, and like, so I just say that to not say that he's dumb or anything, but like, he was obviously a smart guy. He was a teacher, he was a math teacher and things like that, but like, he knew nothing about it. He had no aviation background whatsoever. And back then we used to do this thing because I was getting a lot of students from other ground schools who those online ground schools weren't working out for them, right? And I wanted a way for them to be able to not have to start from scratch, to be able to basically see what areas they're weak on and then just focus on those areas once they come to our ground school, kind of just, so they don't have to redo stuff. I since have removed this because I got a lot of complaints about it because it confused people, but we used to have a test right at the beginning. It was called a pre-assessment. It confused people. They were like, why am I being tested right away? And I was like, look, no, it's just to see where you're at, and then we'll see where you're at again at the end. So anyways, this this teacher, he got a 9% on that test, which is funny because I actually laughed with him about this at the end, because like, I don't even think you could get a 9% if you tried. Like, even if you just randomly guessed, you think you would get like 30%. Like,
Yeah.
pretty remarkable that it was
Yeah.
it was a 9%. But so yeah, he got a 9%, and then his last test was a 90%, and he got a 90% on the written exam. So that one has always stuck out to me, because he even left a review that said 9 to 90, and it's kind of one of the reviews I use for my marketing, because it was kind of cool, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great, man. So how do you I guess you kind of answered this in a way, but the question I was gonna ask is how do you maintain the accuracy as you're putting out this content, but the accuracy with like current FAA, regulations like the FAR-AM and things like that. I'm assuming you probably use a CFIs that you mentioned that you have contracted.
Yeah, a little bit sometimes. I usually mostly handle most of that, because we talked about having control, and I like to have control over the course content. But luckily the FAA doesn't change. The more courses we have, the more we got to do that. But luckily the FAA doesn't change too often the stuff in our courses. But when it does, it is quite a bit of work. And luckily, because we are a small team, we're not some giant corporation, even though, I don't know, I feel like they should be able to do it too, but we can react quickly,
Yeah.
And I've built my business to be efficient like that as well. I don't have, so I was actually talking to somebody, and he thought, he's like, well, isn't, having a small team, couldn't that be a bad thing? And I was like, I mean, it's only a bad thing if we can't support our customers. If we can support our customers, like, that's kind of the maximum, why grow into this big thing that's inefficient or whatever. So anyways, as long as we can, be there for our customers at any time, that's the goal of the team size. So anyways, we can react quickly. So like the Mosaic, I don't know if you're familiar with Mosaic. Yeah, the Mosaic for sport pilots. So we've already updated our sport pilot ground school with like transition lessons. Now, Mosaic doesn't go into effect till October 22nd, so we don't want to fully say, in case students who are in there are taking their exams before October 22nd, we don't want to confuse them. So we kind of did some like transition notes and things that say, hey, just so you know, depending on when you're taking the test, this is how this is going to change, and things like that. Yeah.
So let's talk about you as a pilot, right? You mentioned before you do have your private pilot as well as your advanced ground instructor. Do you still fly like regularly, or?
Yeah, so I'm not current right now. It's been a couple of years since I've flown, unfortunately. Mostly just because of the business and the fact that when I fly, I have high personal minimums for myself. I have a healthy fear of flying without being proficient and things like that. And so I just don't have the time right now, or, and a lot of the funds that, that I have, I want to kind of put back into the business. So it's just hard to do. I guess I want to do it. I want to get back into it. Mm-hmm. I just want it to be the right time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's been a while. I'm not current, but hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, got to get you maybe out east, man. I'll get you back current. I got.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll make some videos about it and everything.
For sure. So with you being a pilot, man, has that kind of changed your perspective? I know you just mentioned the high personal minimums, but applying that to the business, do you think that has helped kind of shape you as an entrepreneur and a business owner in terms of like risk planning and your decision making?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I mean, it's definitely helped specifically with how I teach ground school, with having, flown and gone through it myself and flown
Right.
planes myself. Um, and I think if you go through my ground school, you'll see that influence of the kind of safety first aspect that I have. You'll get that influence in the ground school. And I've even thought about doing like a bonus course. If I have the time, I do want to do like a bonus like safety course, just for people who want to, because I think that's one of people's biggest fears, like is especially their loved ones, their wives or whatever. And I think if I can make them feel better about that, that they're doing the extra, they're going the extra mile to make sure that they're safe. I think that would be good. But in terms of like just the business aspect of pilot, I would say I've always kind of had a pilot way of thinking, like a very checklist oriented, logical steps type thing. So I don't know that becoming a pilot changed that too much, because that was kind of already
Yeah.
part of who I
It's
was.
in you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
got you. Which makes sense, right? With your aspirations to, be an astronaut at one point in time and to pursue, at least your private pilot's license. I think I feel comfortable saying that the vast majority of us as pilots probably share those similar traits.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay, man. So I just got a couple more things for you. So for entrepreneurs looking to build their business, right, around their passion, what would you say is the most critical mindset to have?
The most critical mindset to have, I would say, I have a couple ideas. I'm trying to think of I mean, it's kind of the stuff we talked about, man. It's like, one, just do it, put yourself out there, you know? So often people are worried about what other people are going to say or worried that they'll fail. And if it's something you like doing, you can't fail. Like, okay, so you don't make money, but you're doing something you love. Like you're enjoying it. Like, so that's not a failure in my book. Like a failure in my book is doing something you don't love and not making very money. I think
Mm,
Jim Carrey, at his he did a commencement speech and he talked about a story about his dad. Um, his dad had this job that he hated, and he would always get fired and have to go to a new job, and he realized that what made him kind of go towards acting and comedy and go for his dreams was watching his dad, because he was thinking, if you can fail at what you don't love, then why not try and fail at what you do love? um yeah, it's a really good quote. So I would say just do it, especially if you love it. And then just yeah, you're gonna have people, you're gonna have butt heads, and don't take it as a badge of honor. That's why I clapped when you said you got yours. It means you're doing something right. It means you're putting yourself out there. um you know what they say has nothing to do with you. And even if there's truth into it, like when I made my first couple YouTube videos, uh, the production quality sucked. Like there was like wind blowing in the thing. Like I sounded like I hated what I was doing. I was super nervous, and like, even if they're true, it's like, who cares, man? You're like putting yourself out there. You're you're doing it. It's gonna get better. You're gonna get better at what you do. Just start.
yeah, absolutely. It kind of goes back to what you said before. Like, just if you wish you had started sooner, so you could start getting that feedback
Mm-hmm.
sooner and then applying it, and you could have potentially, noticed that or benefited from that growth earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you know, one of the like grammar, for example, like uh you use something or a wrong grammar, someone's gonna call you out for it. Or like, you misspell a word, someone's gonna call you out for it. But like once you're in as an entrepreneur, you understand that like that's not gonna that's not going to be a deal breaker for someone. Maybe one person out there is going to be like, oh, they made a spelling mistake, I'm not going to buy it now. Like, it's just so minuscule in terms of things, and it shows that, hey, you're doing,
Yeah.
um you're doing, and you're doing it rapidly, and you're um like, I don't know, don't be afraid to make mistakes. You're gonna make them, and as long as the fundamentals of what you're doing are there, that's all that matters. The core fundamentals, the building blocks.
Yeah. Those that can do and those that can't, they talk about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very, very seldom are you criticized by someone that's, where you want to be or, doing better than you are, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'll say one more thing. Like, don't think you need to have like a website and all these, uh, all these things. Like, especially nowadays, like you can you can make a YouTube account. You can have private video. Like, let's say you want to get in the training business, education. You can make a YouTube account. You can have private videos. You can get a link tree. Put that link in your YouTube. Point it to, when people buy, they get access to your videos in like a PDF. Boom, like you can become an entrepreneur and sell what you know that's unique to you, and people will buy it, and you don't have to spend so much time like thinking about your branding and your website and your logo. And I spent a lot of time on my logo at the beginning, and which is fine, it's fun, but like, I don't know, just start and put out what you know and put yourself out there.
Yeah, I think we talked about that too. You said a lot of
Yeah,
people waste time, they waste time on that, and it's so true because I wasted a lot of time and energy because we are in the digital age and space, and I want something that looks cool, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to because this
it
is
does
me,
look
right?
cool. It does look cool.
I appreciate it, but it took me quite some time. But so I got one more question for you before we get ready to wrap it up, man. It was kind of on the education piece, but what's something that you wish more people knew about aviation education uh, or online learning?
Hmm. And one, I would say for aviation, I would just say the amount of stuff that
Mm,
pilots have to learn. I think a lot of people don't understand the ground and the importance of ground school. Um, and so I'm legitimately thinking about running my own study and doing a survey. Now that I have a little bit of a following, because I have a hypothesis that, like, I know you don't have to do it this way. You don't have to do ground school first. Um, but I have a hypothesis that students that do ground school first and they don't just do like test prep, like, where they just memorize a bunch of questions, they actually do a comprehensive ground school, and they do it, let's say, before they solo, um, then or before, that they spend less money in flight training. Because I always see students underestimate the importance of the knowledge part of it. They get to flying solo and some of these more complex lessons where they're doing multiple tasks, and they have this mental overload. They're mentally behind the pilot. Top Gun, Maverick, Tom Cruise says, don't think, fly, right? Obviously that's an exaggeration, but it's true. Like, you want to be able to focus on flying and feeling the aircraft and listening to ATC. And if you're like, oh shoot, how does a VOR work again? Or how do I read an altimeter? You're instantly behind the aircraft, and a mistake is waiting to happen. You're already losing altitude, right? You're already uh, and that it's going to cause your flight instructor to say, you know what, we're going to have to redo this lesson. You weren't quite there today, uh, and we're going to have to redo this lesson. So, okay, there's another $400 or $500 you got to do. And eventually, if you have a good flight instructor, your flight instructor is going to be like, hey, let's pause. We need to get you your mentals where they need to be before we continue on. I just think I see it all the time. I get people coming to me all the time saying, I've hit a wall. And I'm like, hey, have you done your ground school yet? No. Well, let's do that first. Let's do that really well first. Then get back out there and see how it goes. So that's one I wish people knew coming into it. And then as far as online learning, I would say that it's no longer like just DIY. Like, like online courses, you think, okay, here's your online course. You're never going to talk to anybody ever again. But now with like all the technologies, all the places you can reach out and message people, Zoom, they even have, Voxer where you can send like voice messages and things like that. Like you can do an online course, and that's what we try to do, right? You can do an online course and have a human that you can constantly talk to and get support from. Of course there are a lot of businesses that still do that because, they don't want to spend that time and they just want to kind of maximize profit, but it doesn't have to be that way in online learning. And I think the more technology advances, the more it can be as close to in person as possible.
Absolutely. No, that was great, man. So, really, in summary, like the airplane, and in my opinion, I think any good instructor should be telling their students the aircraft is the worst classroom, right? It's the worst possible place, to learn. And then two, to Nick's point there, man, utilize your resources. Obviously, as time goes on, and technology advances even more, there's more information available than ever. We've got, podcasts like, this or Nick's, man, that you can learn so much. And just taking advantage of it to the maximum extent. I can't tell you how much I learned. Of course, I learned from my instructors, but just at home, like, in my own time where I had to sacrifice and really like, lock in and, because I knew what the end, my end goal was, or is. And, really just focusing in on that and taking advantage of all the free information out there. It paid dividends. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So I got one last thing, and then we're gonna kind of finish this up, wrap this up. But kind of in the entrepreneurial mindset. But do you have any current projects or anything like that you're working on that you can kind of speak to that maybe people can see or be looking out for on the horizon?
Oh man, do I? I have too many things on my mind. Let's see here. So I want to kind of top of mind is, so we have for private pilot, we have a check ride prep course specific to check ride prep. We don't have that yet for sport pilot and IFR. So I want to get those out, kind of complete those trio of, support and products for those certificates. And then after that, it would be a commercial course. And then we're working on an app. So we have an app, and the whole goal of the app, for a while I was like, people are like, hey, do you have an app? And I was like, no, but we don't really need one because our website is completely mobile friendly. But then someone made me realize, like, well, sometimes an app is good because you can store the content locally and you can use it offline. So I was like, that's why people want an app. Okay. So like we started building an app, and we started it just kind of as like a free app where you can do private pilot practice tests, and there's like a free E6B tool. And then now we're making it so that when you log in, if you're a member of the online ground school, additional features will pop up. And those are kind of like offline companion features. So we're starting with just the private pilot. And right now you can read through the lessons and you can take the quizzes offline. You can't get videos and images offline. But that's kind of the next thing we're working on. We're kind of make it even more, I guess not streamlined, but basically the whole goal is to be able to like download a lesson and have it. We already have our audio lessons you can download, because you can sign up for when you become a member, you can sign up for a VIP podcast. And that's basically the reason we do that is because on podcast apps, you can download a podcast, right, for offline. So now if we have our audio lessons as a VIP podcast, you can download them all and listen to them offline. So now kind of the next step is images for like our quizzes and our lessons, having those basically downloaded locally to your app so that you can access all our content. Not all our content, like our AI tools and other things. Obviously, you need internet for that, but so that's another thing we're working on. Once we get the private pilot done and tested, we'll do that for sport and IFR as well. Trying to think. We do have. I'm testing out a digital logbook for that we're going to include in our. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do that. If I'm going to just include it in lifetime access, or maybe I don't know. I don't know on the pricing on that, but I just thought people already are online with us. Why not just give them a nice? And what's cool is I thought, okay, the big problem with that is, or the main hurdle with that is, not losing somebody's progress. So the way we're going to do it is every time you update it, it just automatically downloads a PDF to your site, so that no matter if, no matter what happens, like you have a PDF on your device every single time you can go back and get. We'll also store it on our site and take backups and everything like that every other place does. Yeah. But it's like an added measure so that you just never lose it. So yeah, I would say those things. Eventually I want to get into more interactive tools. I have some ideas in the works right now for like I had a VR walk around of an aircraft made up, and I want to make that so that if you don't have VR, because not everybody has VR, that you can still do it on the computer. You know what I mean? So like it could be either or. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that and make it not like a huge software burden. You know what I mean? Like just make it easy where you can just be like, click it in the course. And so yeah, there's lots of ideas, man. It's crazy.
Dude, that is sweet, man. I think just between the logbook and that alone, that VR, because kind of backs up what you said earlier as far as doing the ground school before they get to the aircraft. So that way you're familiar with how an altimeter actually functions, what you should be looking for, with that, and, your VSI, all of your, primary instruments. But even just doing the walk around of an aircraft, like, your static port and, your pitot tube, like being able to, kind of go through and get used to your flows, backing it up with the checklist, of course, but, kind of getting used to that, going through those flows, even from the pre-flight all the way to shutdown, man. So, dude, I think that's awesome.
I figured I could start with, the simple stuff with the aircraft just parked, like,
right.
The walk around, checking out all the instruments, and then, then going into the cockpit and seeing all the instruments. And then once we can do that, okay, then I'll figure out how we can get them on the VR to manipulate the instruments and things like that. Maybe there's like a simulator where you could change your altitude or something. And I don't know. But just start simple, where I think it would still be really, really valuable. I'm not gonna go start competing with Microsoft Flight Sim anytime soon, but like I can do, like we can include some really helpful and beneficial visuals like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what you come up with that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all that I had for you, man. The big hard hitting questions. So to wrap this up, man, I'd like to do sort of a rapid fire, but it's what I like to call cleared for the option.
Okay.
So just kind of a play on, ATC there, but just kind of something fun that I like to do for people to kind of just get to know you, and just a fun way to wrap everything up. So
okay, I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous. Nah, don't be nervous. But yeah, with that being said, man, you're cleared for the option. So first one I got for you, you could just say the first thing that comes to mind. Favorite airplane?
SR 72. Sorry, I blanked on the the numbers for some reason.
No, you're good.
Blackbird. Yeah.
Okay. Your biggest influence?
Biggest influence, my parents.
Parents. Nice. Your favorite airport?
San Diego
San
International.
Diego.
Traveling through there as a commercial passenger is such a breeze. I love it.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your favorite book?
Oh man. Sorry, this is a tough one. I'm
You
gonna
can go
go with
around.
I'm gonna go. Okay, so I love Red Rising. Have you heard the series Red Rising?
No.
Okay, so it's like a sci-fi fantasy type series. I really recommend it if you're into
Okay.
that. And then there's a book called The Lost City of Z. Um, and it's about basically the ancient civilization in the Amazon that, like, all the Spanish conquistadors that came and, did all that stuff to the natives in the Americas. But when they came back to Europe, they said that there was like a city of gold, like El Dorado, or like there's been a ton of stories based off of them. And basically there was this guy named Percy Fawcett. Sorry, this isn't very rapid fire, but there's this guy named Percy Fawcett who was in the early 1900s, and he was like determined. He was like this epic adventurer, and he had wrote all these journals and logs. And basically the author of this book is basically following his journals and logs because he just disappeared. This Percy Fawcett guy, he disappeared in the Amazon. There's a bunch of rumors that he just like loved it so much he just became part of one tribe, or there was other rumors that he got killed. So he basically, this author retraces his steps, and it's just the coolest. It's just the coolest book. It's well written book if you're into like adventure and like history and the Amazon and like jungles and stuff like that. It's just really, really cool. They made a movie about it, but the movie sucked.
What was the movie called?
Lost City of Z.
Lost. Okay.
Yeah. Charlie Hunnam was in it. The guy from Sons of Anarchy. You ever watch that?
No. I know I'm familiar with Sons of Anarchy, but I never watched it.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. Okay.
Good book.
Let's see here. What's your favorite flight you've ever been on? Like, where'd you go?
Yeah, I would say one of my there in Washington State is when I started my training, and one of my first, it was a dual cross country that I took with my instructor, and he took me to this really cool airport. I'm completely blanking on the name, but it was on one of the San Juan Islands out there, and it was so cool. Yeah, it's first time getting out of the traffic pattern too.
Oh, okay, yeah,
yeah, that was really cool.
It's a beautiful part of the country, man, that I've yet to experience from like flying into myself, but bucket list for sure.
Oh yeah, it's really cool.
All right, so this one, man, don't screw this one up. Your favorite podcast other than your own? No, I'm just kidding.
Positive Rate Aviation.
Hey, about to say, don't get that one.
I really like Smartless. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
It's Jason Bateman. It's like three celebrity guys: Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and another comedian guy. But anyways, they just have famous people come on, but each time is one of them picks the person, and the other two don't know, so it's kind of like a surprise, and they kind of like don't know until they announce that person. And they're just really funny. They're like the worst interviewers because they just give each other shit the whole time and take over the conversation, and they'll have like some really important person on there just like sitting, like having to listen to their bullshit. So it's really funny.
Jason Bateman, that's a dude from Ozark, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Will Arnett is the other one.
Okay. Yeah, man. Jason's funny. He's got like that really like dry, almost like dry sense of humor, but like he's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
They're really funny. I think you'd probably like it. It's pretty funny.
I'll check them out.
Yeah.
So the last thing I got for you, man. What is the biggest piece of advice you'd have for someone who's looking to, get into aviation or even start a business in the aviation industry? What you got for
So the business we already kind of talked about it. I would say just do it. Put yourself out there for you know pilot. Becoming a pilot. I would say make a plan. Um, I don't want to deter from just starting, but it can really help if you plan out your finances, when you're going to do ground school, where you're going to do flight training, do your research on these things. It can really have a beneficial impact on the quality of training and the money you spend.
Absolutely. No, spot on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, brother, you cleared the land.
Dude, this is awesome. You're really good at this.
Man, I appreciate you.
I need to pick up
way too kind.
No, you're great. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you, man. No, this was even greater than I imagined, dude. Seriously, I have no idea how much I appreciate this. I think it's good too for a lot of your students and people who are familiar with your platform and your ground school, man, to be able to see you, right? Like they see you in that space, but I think it's cool for them to maybe be able to see you in more of as a regular normal human, right?
Right.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
learn a little bit more about you, man. So I think that's going to be great, and looking forward to this coming out.
Yeah, and we got to get you on our podcast. Like I said, we're doing the Day in the Life series, and your specific experience with the military, I think, would be really valuable, and how you navigated all that.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I know we spoke about that before, so I'm more than happy and honored to come on and do that. So looking forward to that, working with you on that as well, man.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll get that scheduled.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll kind of do a little debrief here once we go off, but that's all I have for you today on here, man. Thank you again, and thank you to everyone out there for watching. Oh, real quick, I'd be remiss. You want to do a couple quick shameless plugs for social media and everything?
Sure. Yeah. So if you want to listen to our podcast, it's the Audio Ground School Podcast. We do sorry, my cat's meowing. Be quiet. We do our ground school lessons in audio for free on there, one per week, IFR and private pilot. Again, that's the Audio Ground School Podcast. On Instagram and TikTok, we are at time period pilot. So just part-time pilot with periods in between each of the words. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube, just search part-time pilot, or you can find all of this stuff at parttimepilot.com and learn more about us.
Yes.
Appreciate it, my man.
Absolutely, man. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Smith, part-time pilot. Thank you, man, and looking forward to this coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.